I think I've mentioned multiple times on this show, I've never been the type to go and, amass a giant back catalog of games that I can't even remember, so I can't even go through them. But I will say, at a bare minimum, I put off Forbidden West for a very, very long time. And I honestly wish I didn't, and that I hadn't. So, for most people, the gameplay style of Forbidden West is not going to be too dissimilar from almost every generic non-bullet based third-person adventure type game that we have these days. Basically, if you played anything from Amy Hennig circa Uncharted series, you have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be looking into. However, don't expect traditional handguns. They don't even really have assault rifles per se. But one of the things that I came to realize while I was in the middle of watching the credits, which, knowing me, that's probably what you're looking at right now, is, holy shit, I think this game has perfect difficulty. Now, what I mean by that, I think I can't name one particular section that difficulty didn't, meet my expectations, but more so, difficulty expectation was never extremely psychopathic levels of crazy at random. And if I knew I was getting into something a little bit more dangerous, anything with the word apex used as a prefix is dangerous for those of you who haven't played this game yet. It's the way of basically saying, hey, here's a stronger version of something you already normally kill. I honestly think this is one of the only times in my life I've experienced perfect difficulty. Maybe, Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, or Twilight Princess, which technically is a sequel depending on who you ask. But the fact that they did it is making me wonder, why hasn't it happened so much more frequently? Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that there are games that are meant to have a high difficulty ceiling, but even those games have a easy mode. In which case, the opposite problem is there. It could be so easy you're just bored. Essentially, you're basically playing a more glorified version of a Dynasty Warriors, ironically on an easy mode as well. Oh, and, Basara fans, Muso fans, if you're mad about me saying something like that, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings or bruise your egos. I'm just saying, don't take it as an intended insult, okay? Remember, you play the games. You're not the one making the games. If anybody should take it as an insult, it's the developers. And even then, I would stress that it's not intentional. But here's what I mean about the difficulty and why I think that, and I can sum it up into one word: scalable. Or, if that doesn't pique your interest, risk reward. So, let me give it to you straight. There are about 7 categories of weapons in this game, and even then they have multiple deviations and permutations and combination mixes. Not going to get into them all because that would be a massive waste of time. You basically have 2 types of bow and arrows, and on top of it, you have what is essentially amounts to an elemental or an explosive or piercing version of almost every weapon. And then there's your armors, but we'll get into that later. Main focus is difficulty. So listen, if you played the original game, you're going to know offhand you can save a lot of arrows by sneaking up on things, silent strike, holding down R2, boom, extra damage. The stronger Aloy gets, the more devastating it can be, or the chance of something being blown off with you slashing down with essentially a wooden spear with a metal tip, which again doesn't make sense, but hey, not complaining. Shit saved my ass many times. So listen, the combat style really hasn't changed much from the first game. It is very, very intuitive, and there's a layer of technicality and stance or style changing for you fight gamers out there that the previous title did not have, and that this one has in spades. If you prefer to do a lot of traps and then spend up as little of your resources outside of trap stuff as possible, you can do that, because for some reason they made the animal so fucking stupid they will walk directly into a trap. But to be fair, they don't know things are going to explode. Okay, so I get it. I honestly get it. But also, Even if you think that that might not be fair, remember, there's a set limit on your traps. You can expand the limit, but it'll take a massive amount of in-game time to get it to the max level. Then if you got it to the max level, do you have the materials you need to build the resources for your favorite type of trap or bomb explosive? And then if you got that, now you got to divide it up on what else do you have that utilizes that same ammunition or those same resources that you have. And then you got to weigh the pros and the cons based on the situation. See what I mean? It keeps scaling based on what you're doing. It's an ebb and a flow. It's not so much balance, which again, I could understand if someone said that, but it's perfectly scaled. Yeah, there's no way to avoid that Thanos perfectly balanced meme. I'm sorry, I was trying to avoid it, but I really can't. So listen, I'm gonna run you through an example. You can be completely maxed out in your level, have on your best set of armor that's meant for doing long range, and then you can go fight an apex elephant. Yes, I know the elephants aren't called elephants, but it makes it easier for people who've never played the game to understand what type of mecha animals I'm dealing with. So I'll tell you which ones they represent. The mecha elephants are some of the most dangerous, and they have the highest defense and, if memory serves, the highest HP of almost any overworld robot. But here's the thing. They also have a bunch of layers of armor. Now, when you first encounter these things, you gonna die a couple times. And that's me being nice. The game even is aware of it, so the area that you meet them in, there are certain key things that you can trigger that can make them temporarily lose some of their defense, some of their armor, some of their HP. So you don't have to, brute force it alone. Also, they have a common elemental weakness, and one of the most common you can find in the game. Now, you would think if you got all your stuff maxed out and you're built for range, because this thing ain't exactly running fast, it's going to be an easy time, right? But remember what I said. Balanced, perfectly scalable difficulty. Let's say you can't always hit the weak points. You still hit them, but you can't always hit the weak point. Let's say you tried to drop a trap, but various projectiles or third parties in the area hit you along the line of this mastodon-like megazord of an asshole enemy. You still have a high probability of having to be game overed, if that's even a word. I'm gonna Google that later. Is game overed a word? So yeah, what do? You can keep fighting it, stun it so you can get away, or Hail Mary, unload everything you got, and pray it's enough. Mind you, you can see the, target's HP at any given time, so if you're doing a lot of damage and whatnot. Or you can try to play the hit and run game, which it's not really a metaphor, it's literal in this case. Get back really, really far away, hit it with some very devastating, powerful techniques, and pray none of its projectile-based attacks are going to hit you. For those of you who haven't played the game, I know it hasn't been really advertised in any of the commercials and promotion. Almost every single, if not every single enemy has a projectile capability, or they have an elemental sling or flamethrower-like ability. And they suck. They suck dick. Now, again, you're maxed out. You have everything that you could possibly have. You can have everything that you could possibly want. You can have your perfect loadout because you like doing long-range techniques, and your armor even complements that. That thing can still kill you from any distance, put you in a status effect, or you could be at level. Matter of fact, let your level match that elephant. Say the elephant's level 30 and you're level 30. You might have half the access to the techniques, half the access to the stat boost, and half the access to the types of weapons that you're going to have literally at the end of the journey when you got access to everything and everything's maxed out. It's not an even challenge now. It's still a threat that can easily topple you. Because of what specific reason? Resource management. You miss too many shots, or you hit too many spots where you got extremely low levels of attack and damage because you had an armor piece. But that same version of you, who's level 30 or same level as the elephant, they can be more accurate. Their traps can land. They can make sure they lure them into it. They can put down the right kind of tripwires, making sure they don't get hit, dodge at the right time. And it'll almost seem like it's two different people playing the damn game, but it's not. The player's playstyle can also be factored into the scalability and the balance and the resource management. Think about how crazy that is. Bro, I didn't even know until the last 5 hours of the game there was an upgraded version of the basic default hunter arrows. Your most basic piece of equipment. And believe me, when I got it, I noticed a difference. Furthermore, late game you has access to some of the special techniques that are going to be from your skill trees. Remember, your skill trees special abilities kick in even if you don't have a special super technique associated with them equipped. So the elephant's a big target. I can go in, I can throw my spear that's drilled because I got it from a side quest. And for those of you wondering, I think the side quest is the only way to get the drill penetration version of the javelins you can throw. I also could notch multiple arrows with different elements, so I could do a triple shot to increase the chance of creating a status effect that many times over. But again, somebody with half the HP, half the defense, half the skill points can just perfectly time traps, use the trip caster, which is the ground mine bomb or explosion or elemental, or in the very end of the game, defensive capability that they can get. Or they can use the rope caster, which slows down your enemies, keeps them in a set distance. Or even use the sticky bombs, which I don't know why they are there. It feels like a waste when you got the rope caster. But I guess I could understand it if you don't want it to be tied to a string. And here we are, circulating between a grenade slingshot, essentially a very small minor assault rifle, can only really do about 5 or 6 shots before it has to reload in rapid succession. 2 different bow and arrows, one basically meant to be a sniper equivalent of a bow and arrow, and various ammos that can do everything from blow off pieces of armor and do little damage, to going through that armor, setting it on fire, making explosions, poisoning with acid, so many things. And yet, every single time I keep realizing, I don't think there's anything wrong with this balancing. If you know you're a bad shot or you get worried, you can slow down with the concentration. If you know you don't want to use up your arrows because you prefer to use them for long range or human targets only, you got the traps and you got the explosives. And then you can also regenerate your ammo in real time, and the game slows down to make sure you're not overblown or overtaken by what's all going on screen at once. And if you want to be sneaky all the time, the game has Watcher type enemies, and they even have their own Apex versions, who not only will be off camera and hit you with small stunning blasts, which I don't know if it counts as an element or not, but they also have increased sensing capabilities. So if you snipe from grass, or I guess red, leafy, whatever the hell Aloy hides in, they're basically going to snitch on you like little kids when they find out their big, sibling is eating a midnight snack or some other BS. I don't know. I'm the baby of the family, so yeah, I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Now, there are many other things that you would consider wrong with this game. Do not get me wrong, it is a great game and I still recommend it. There are some faults, but those faults are not in relation to the scalability and the practicality of the difficulty. Now, this isn't a review in the traditional sense like I stated. It's just a discussion about game balance and how, through some sheer fluke or coincidence, Forbidden West just comes off as having perfect difficulty scaling and balance. So yeah, that's all I want to do, just be the umpteenth person to praise this game. I look forward to the third one. Thanks for coming down to 2 Centile. Peace.